fiery live TV clash between Jimin and Jungkook spirals into chaos when a shocking family secret erupts, leaving the audience stunned. "Are you seriously going to say that in front of the whole nation, Jimin?" Jungkook's voice cracked like glass breaking, and the studio fell silent as if oxygen had been stolen from the room. "You left me no choice," Jimin shot back, his words sharp, each syllable cutting through the tension. "For years you've played innocent, while everyone else paid the price for your silence." The host, visibly unsettled, fumbled with the cue cards, unsure whether to intervene or let the storm rage. The cameras kept rolling, catching every word, every fragment of fire. "Silence." Jungkook's laugh was bitter. "You think I was silent because I wanted to protect myself? No, Jimin. I stayed quiet because I was protecting my family, something you clearly don't understand." "Protecting?" Jimin leaned forward, his voice trembling, not with weakness, but with restrained fury. "Don't you dare twist this, Jungkook. Protecting would mean owning the truth, no matter how painful. But you hid it, and you let the rest of us drown in rumors while you played the martyr." The audience shifted, whispers rolling across the studio like a wave. The MC finally spoke, his tone cautious. "Gentlemen, this is a live broadcast. If there are personal matters—" "Personal?" Jimin cut him off, eyes burning toward Jungkook. "You want personal? Then let's talk about the truth behind your perfect image. The truth about your father." The words hit like a gunshot. Gasps erupted from the audience, the MC nearly dropping his microphone. Jungkook's jaw clenched, his hands tightening into fists on the table in front of him. "Don't," Jungkook warned, his voice lower now, more dangerous. "Don't drag him into this. He has nothing to do with what's happening between us." "Nothing?" Jimin's voice cracked, with something deeper anger, laced with pain. "You think I don't know? You think the world doesn't deserve to know? Your father's scandal didn't just stain your family, Jungkook. It stained all of us. Every time we walked onto that stage, we carried a shadow." "Stop it!" Jungkook slammed his hand down, the sound echoing across the studio. "He was my father, not yours. You don't get to weaponize his sins against me. And you don't get to erase the damage he caused?" Jimin fired back. "Do you remember the night the press ambushed us? Do you remember how I had to stand there defending you, taking hits that weren't mine to take?" The MC tried again, his voice trembling. "Perhaps we should cut to commercial." "No," Jungkook's voice thundered. "Let them hear it. Let everyone hear it. If Jimin wants the world to know, then fine. But he better be ready to admit his own lies while he's at it." Jimin froze, his eyes narrowing. "What lies? You talk about carrying my burden?" Jungkook leaned forward, his tone dripping with venom. "Then why don't you tell them about the deal you made? The deal that kept your brother out of prison while the rest of us suffered for rumors that weren't even ours." The studio imploded with shock. The MC's hands shook as he whispered, This wasn't on the script." The audience gasped louder, some covering their mouths, others shouting in disbelief. Jimin's voice shook, but he didn't back down. "That's not the same, and you know it. I did what I had to do to save my family. Don't you dare compare that to the years of lies you built your career on." "You call it lies. I call it survival." Jungkook's eyes darkened. "And maybe that's why you'll never understand. You wanted to play saint, but the truth is, you're just as selfish as me." The silence after his words was deafening. The audience stared, the crew frozen, the MC speechless. And in that silence, Jimin whispered, so low, it felt like a dagger sliding under the skin. "Then let the nation judge us both." The cameras captured everything, the fury, the betrayal, the wounds, too deep to be hidden. The broadcast had spiraled far beyond entertainment, transforming into a battlefield where secrets were weapons and every word left scars. And as the show went on, the world outside the studio began to tremble, with the aftershocks of truths no one had expected to hear. "Let the nation judge us both." Jimin's words lingered in the air, like smoke from a fire that refused to die. The cameras were still rolling, the red light unwavering, feeding the chaos into millions of homes across the country. Jungkook's lips curled into something caught between rage and despair.
"You've crossed a line, Jimin. There's no going back from this."
"No going back?" Jimin shot back instantly, voice vibrating with raw fury. "There was never a way back. You built this illusion, and we all played along. Tonight, the curtain finally fell. The MC's hand hovered above the desk, as if searching for a lifeline. We should stop this before it escalates any further, he stammered, eyes darting toward the production crew. This is a family program, not— Family? Jimin barked out a bitter laugh that drew every gaze back to him. Funny word, isn't it? Because that's what Jungkook's been hiding behind. A family name, a family scandal, a family secret. The public deserves to know the truth. Jungkook's voice dropped, low but steady, heavy with a venom that could poison a nation's heart. If you expose them, you're no better than the people who destroyed mine. Do you want to be the executioner, Jimin? Is that your grand role tonight? I'm tired of being your shield, Jimin said, his voice cracking under the weight of his own emotions. I covered for you for years. Every time a headline appeared, every time whispers circled backstage, I was the one throwing myself into the fire while you pretended you were untouchable. The MC tried to cut in again, voice trembling. Please, the viewers, let them hear it, Jungkook snapped, never breaking his glare. Let them hear every word. Because if Jimin thinks he can drag my family down, then I'll drag his right along with mine. Isn't that fair? Jimin's heart pounded, but his fury was louder. Fair. Nothing about this has ever been fair. Do you know what it's like to stand beside you while the world worships you, knowing the truth would shatter that perfect image? Do you know how many nights I wanted to scream it out loud but stayed silent because I thought I was protecting us? Protecting us? Jungkook sneered. Or protecting yourself from becoming irrelevant without me? The studio audience gasped collectively, a living chorus of shock. The MC pressed his earpiece, muttering inaudible words to the control room. But no commercial break came. The producers, sensing ratings gold, refused to cut. Jimin leaned forward, voice trembling but sharp. You think I needed you to be relevant? You think I stayed silent for my career? No, Jungkook. I stayed silent because I thought you were still human beneath all the lies. But I was wrong. You're nothing but the shadow of your father's mistakes. Jungkook's fist slammed the table again, the sound reverberating through the stunned silence. Don't you dare speak of him like that. You didn't know him. I didn't have to know him. Jimin's voice cracked into a near scream. His sins bled into everything we built together. Every concert, every interview, every fan meeting, I carried the burden of his disgrace while you hid behind a smile. And you call me selfish? The MC's voice wavered, desperate. Gentlemen, please, we can resolve this privately. No, Jungkook growled, his eyes locked on Jimin. We resolve it here, now, in front of everyone, because Jimin clearly wants blood, and I'm not going to walk away without giving him his own taste of shame. Jimin's shoulders stiffened as Jungkook leaned closer. Tell them, Jimin. Tell them about your brother. Tell them what you did to keep him free while you pretended to be the righteous one. Let's see how the nation feels when their golden boy is nothing more than a hypocrite. The audience gasped louder this time, some even shouting. The MC, pale as chalk, looked like he might faint. Is that true? He whispered, the microphone catching every tremor. Jimin's chest heaved, his voice low but firm. Yes, I made a deal. I protected my brother because I couldn't stand by and watch my family destroyed. But I never let the world suffer for it. I never let anyone else carry that weight but me. Jungkook's laughter was hollow, chilling. And you think that makes you different from me? You think hiding your sins behind noble intentions makes you a hero? No, Jimin. It makes you a liar, just like me. The words struck like daggers. The audience murmured in shock, some cheering for Jimin, others for Jungkook, the room splitting down invisible lines. Social media was already exploding outside the studio walls, millions typing furiously, spreading fragments of the confrontation across the globe. Jimin's voice trembled with a new kind of fury, one laced with grief. I never wanted to be your enemy, Jungkook. I wanted us to fight side by side. But tonight, you made it clear we were never brothers, never even friends. We were just rivals wearing the same mask. Jungkook's reply was sharp as a blade, and maybe the mask was all we ever had. The MC collapsed back into his seat, powerless to stop the wildfire raging before him. Cameras captured every word, every revelation, feeding the nation's hunger for scandal. And as the two stood locked in their verbal war, the walls of the studio felt like they were closing in, trapping everyone inside the blaze of truth too dangerous to be contained. The broadcast did not end when the argument stopped. In fact, the silence that followed Jimin's final words was louder than anything that had been shouted. The MC sat frozen, the audience Jungkook broke the silence first, his voice slow, heavy, dangerous. If you wanted to destroy me, Jimin, congratulations. You've done it in front of millions. But don't think you'll walk out of this unscathed. The world is ruthless. They'll eat you alive for what you've admitted tonight. Jimin's reply was sharp, almost too sharp for someone whose voice trembled with the memory of what he'd just confessed. Let them. I'm done hiding. I'd rather burn in front of them than rot quietly behind you. The audience erupted again, torn between cheers and gasps, the sound like a storm outside the studio walls. The MC finally snapped, voice cracking as he shouted for the first time that evening. Stop! Both of you, stop! This isn't a battlefield, it's a show! But no one listened. The air itself was charged, too heavy with truths that had been dragged mercilessly into the light. Jungkook stood abruptly, ignoring the cameras that tried to follow him. Then this show is over. He turned toward Jimin, his voice lower now, but filled with venom. When you leave this stage tonight, remember this, your confession isn't bravery, it's weakness. And weakness is what they'll use to tear you apart. Jimin rose too, matching him word for word, step for step. Better torn apart than chained to lies. Better hated for truth than worshipped for fiction. The producers were screaming through the MC's earpiece, begging for control. But the MC's hands shook too violently to follow any order. The cameras kept rolling as the two idols walked off stage in opposite directions, leaving a nation in shock. Backstage, chaos erupted. Managers shouted into phones, staff scrambled, and security tried to corral fans already breaking into tears. Jimin walked past it all like a ghost, every voice a blur around him. His phone buzzed nonstop, but he refused to look. He could already imagine the storm outside hashtags, trending topics, journalists foaming at the mouth to dissect every word he and Jungkook had thrown at each other. But Jungkook was different. He didn't walk like a ghost. He stormed, every step an earthquake, every breath a thunderclap. When his manager tried to stop him, he shoved past without a word. His phone was already in his hand, his thumbs flying across the screen. Not texting, not calling, searching, watching the fire he and Jimin had ignited. Within minutes, social media was ablaze. Clips from the broadcast spread like wildfire. Jimin's accusation about Jungkook's father, Jungkook's counterattack about Jimin's brother, the raw venom in every exchange. The world was no longer just watching, it was choosing sides. In a small dressing room at the far end of the hallway, Jimin finally collapsed into a chair, his chest heaving. His phone vibrated again, and this time, he looked. Dozens of missed calls from his brother. Hundreds of messages from friends, colleagues, even strangers. His brother's name on the screen felt like a dagger twisting in his gut. The door burst open. It was Jungkook. His eyes burned with fury, his voice sharp enough to pierce steel. Are you satisfied now? Do you realize what you've done? Jimin didn't look up. I told the truth. You destroyed me, Jungkook spat. And for what? To feel righteous? To play the hero on live television while my family is ripped apart again? Jimin finally met his eyes, anger flaring once more. I didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourself the moment you decided to keep hiding. I just stopped protecting you. The room vibrated with tension, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. You think the fans will forgive you? Jungkook's voice dripped with venom. You think they'll look at you and see a hero? No. They'll see a traitor. They'll tear you to pieces, and I won't lift a finger to stop them. Jimin rose slowly, his voice calm but shaking with emotion. Let them. Because at least now, I can breathe. At least now, I don't have to live under your shadow. Jungkook laughed bitterly, the sound empty, hollow. You never lived under my shadow. You lived off it. Jimin's chest heaved, rage building again. But before he could answer, the door flew open once more. The MC, pale and sweating, stumbled inside. The producers, they want both of you back. Now, the ratings. We're not puppets for ratings, Jimin snapped. But Jungkook smirked darkly. Fine. Let's give them what they want. Let's finish this war where it started in front of everyone. The MC looked horrified, but neither idol gave him a choice. They stormed back toward the stage, cameras already rolling again, the audience louder than ever. The nation held its breath as Jimin and Jungkook stood once more under the lights, their shadows stretched long and jagged across the floor. And then the war resumed. The lights on the stage burned hotter than ever, though no one noticed. The audience roared as Jimin and Jungkook returned, their silhouettes cutting through the haze of tension that clung to the air like smoke after a bomb. Jungkook was the first to speak, his voice amplified, raw, almost daring the nation to condemn him. You wanted the truth, didn't you? You wanted the veil ripped away? Then fine, let's stop pretending. Let's show them who we really are. The audience quieted instantly, like a command had silenced them. Jimin turned slowly, every word he spoke vibrating, with something deeper than anger. It was grief hardened into fire. You think exposing me will make you the victim again? No, Jungkook. The world deserves to know how far your family's power stretched, how many lives it ruined, how many doors it slammed in the faces of people more deserving than you. Deserving? Jungkook's laugh was cold, jagged. Don't talk to me about deserving. You think you climbed here on your own? You think the stage ever belonged fully to you? No, Jimin. You're standing here because I carried you, because I let you wear the crown when all you deserved was the throne's shadow. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some jeering. The sound, a chaotic storm swallowing every corner of the studio. The MC tried again to intervene, but his words were lost, drowned beneath the firestorm. Jimin's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Carried me? No, Jungkook. You used me. You used all of us. We were props in your perfect story, shields against the world's questions, ornaments to distract from your rotten foundation. I thought I was protecting us, but I was just protecting you. Jungkook's tone dropped, venomous, shaking with restrained rage. And what about you, Jimin? Tell them about your brother. Tell them what he did. Tell them what you covered up while preaching about truth. Jimin froze for a fraction of a second, but the audience caught it, and a wave of gasps followed. He forced himself to meet Jungkook's gaze. Yes, I protected my brother. I made a deal to keep him out of prison, but I carried that alone. I didn't let anyone else bleed for it. That's the difference between us. I bore my shame. You forced everyone else to bear yours. The words struck like a physical blow, and Jungkook staggered, but his pride refused to let him fall. He clenched his fists and roared back. You think you're noble? You think the world will see you as brave? No. They'll see weakness. They'll see betrayal. And when they turn on you, I'll be standing here, still unbroken. Unbroken? Jimin shouted, his voice raw with something that felt like desperation. You're already broken, Jungkook. You've been broken since the day your father's sins became your shadow. And instead of facing it, you let it consume you. Don't you see? You're not fighting me, you're fighting yourself. The studio shook with the force of the audience's reaction. Some screamed Jungkook's name, others Jimin's, but all were consumed by the storm unraveling before them. The MC finally slammed his hand on the desk, desperate. Enough. This show was meant to celebrate your music, your journey, not to become a courtroom for your personal demons. But Jimin turned to him sharply. Music? Journey? Do you think any of that means anything when the foundation is lies? Do you think the songs we sang weren't poisoned by the secrets we kept? Tonight, the nation doesn't want music. They want the truth. Jungkook sneered. Then give them the whole truth, Jimin. Tell them why you really hate me. Tell them it's not about my father or my family. Tell them it's because you've always resented me for being loved more than you. The audience erupted again, some shouting in disbelief, others nodding, others crying. Jimin's breath caught, but he didn't back down. Resent you? No, Jungkook. I pitied you. I pitied the boy who needed the world's love because he could never love himself. I pitied the man who thought applause could drown out the screams in his own head. Jungkook froze, the words slicing through him, his mask slipping for just a second. The audience gasped, sensing the crack in his armor. But he recovered, forcing a smirk, even as his eyes burned. Pity me all you want, he said coldly. But pity won't save you when the world spits you out tomorrow. You'll learn what I learned long ago. The world doesn't want truth. It wants idols. And tonight, you killed yours. Jimin stepped closer, their faces inches apart, their words knives drawn in the dark. Then let it die. Let the idol die. Maybe then, what's left will finally be real. The camera zoomed in, catching every second of the war. The nation held its breath. Social media exploded into chaos. The world had never seen anything like this. And the fire was only beginning. The studio had become a battlefield. The lights glared down as if they too were witnesses, exposing every crack, every wound, every word that had sliced too deep to be ignored. The audience no longer felt. Jungkook's voice rang out first, cold and sharp, cutting through the restless noise. You wanted to burn me alive, Jimin? Then do it. Say everything. Destroy me completely. But don't pretend you're doing this for anyone but yourself. Jimin's reply was immediate, fire sparking from every syllable. For myself? You really think this is about me? You think I wanted the world to know your father's sins? Do you think I wanted them to know about my brother? No, Jungkook. I wanted us to stop lying. I wanted us to stop pretending we were untouchable when all we've been is broken. The audience shifted like a wave crashing against rocks. Some cried out in defense of Jimin, others in rage at him, but no one stayed silent. The MC sat helpless, his notes crumpled in his hands, his voice stolen by the storm. Jungkook's tone lowered, dripping venom. And what happens now? Do you think the world will praise you for honesty? They'll crucify you, Jimin. They'll call you a traitor, a coward, a hypocrite. And I'll be the one who survives because I've always survived. That's the difference between us. Jimin stepped closer, their voices colliding in the middle of the stage. You survive because you refuse to face yourself. I survive because I've already faced the worst and I'm still standing. That's the difference. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The words were no longer just accusations, they were declarations, each one tearing deeper into the fragile bond that had once held them together. Face myself? Jungkook's laughter was hollow, empty. Don't talk to me about facing anything. You hide behind your own mask just as much as I do. The saint, the protector, the martyr. You want the world to see you as noble. But all I see is someone terrified of being ordinary. Jimin's fists clenched, his voice breaking with fury. Ordinary would have been enough. Ordinary would have been freedom. But you wanted more, Jungkook. You wanted worship. You wanted to be a god, even if it meant building your throne on lies. The studio erupted, shouts filling the air, fans screaming both names as if their cries could rewrite reality. The camera zoomed in mercilessly, capturing every word, every fracture. And then Jungkook's voice dropped, dangerous, like a blade being unsheathed. You think it was lies that built this? No, it was sacrifice. Sacrifices you'll never understand. Do you even know what I gave up? What I lost? You only ever saw the spotlight, never the shadows I drowned in to keep it shining. Jimin's eyes burned, his reply trembling with restrained pain. I saw it. Don't you dare say I didn't. I saw every crack, every night you disappeared, every day you came back hollow, but you never let me in. You never trusted me enough to carry the weight with you. You carried it alone, until it poisoned you, and now you want to poison me too. Jungkook stepped forward, his voice rising like thunder. Because you were never strong enough. I couldn't trust you because you couldn't even save yourself. The words hit like a physical blow. The audience gasped, a wave of sound crashing over the stage. For a moment, Jimin said nothing, his chest rising and falling as silence swallowed him whole. Then his voice broke free, raw and trembling, but louder than ever. Maybe you're right. Maybe I wasn't strong enough. But at least I never pretended to be invincible. At least I never let the world bow to me while I was falling apart. You turned your pain into a weapon, Jungkook. I turned mine into scars. That's why we're standing here now, not as brothers, not as friends, but as enemies who destroyed each other. The audience screamed, some in horror, others in awe, the noise deafening. The MC rose desperately, shouting into his microphone. Stop this. Both of you, this isn't a show anymore. This is destruction. But no one listened. Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper, so quiet the microphones barely caught it. If we're enemies, Jimin, then let's end it properly. No more secrets, no more masks. Tell them everything. Or I will. The crowd froze, silence falling like a guillotine. Jimin stared at him, his chest tight, his heart pounding. He had already confessed about his brother. He had already torn open wounds that could never heal. What else did Jungkook want? Then Jungkook's voice rose again, louder, sharper, each word cutting through the silence. Tell them why you really stayed. Tell them why you never walked away, even when you wanted to. Tell them what tied you to me. All these years. Jimin. Jimin's throat closed, his lips parted, but no sound came. The audience leaned forward, every eye on him, every breath held hostage. And Jungkook delivered the blow. Tell them it wasn't loyalty. It wasn't friendship. It was because you loved me. The studio exploded. Screams, gasps, sobs, shouts, all colliding into chaos. The MC's face turned pale, his microphone slipping from his hand. Social media outside the walls of the studio melted into madness. Hashtags multiplying by the second. Fans crying, laughing, raging. Jimin staggered back, his chest heaving, his voice caught between fury and despair. You don't know what you're saying. Jungkook's eyes locked onto his, unflinching. Oh, I know. I've always known. And so have you. That's the real secret, Jimin. Not your brother, not my father. It's this. It's us. And now the world knows, too. The stage shook with the force of the revelation. Jimin's hands trembled, his voice finally breaking free, raw and devastating. You don't get to use that against me. Not this. Not the only thing I ever kept safe from the world. Jungkook's smile was bitter, his words sharp. Safe? You call this safe? No, Jimin. You call it shame. You loved me, and you hated yourself for it. Just like you hated me for never giving it back. Tears threatened in the audience. Screams turned into sobs. The nation itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting, aching, breaking. And Jimin's voice cracked like thunder, his confession spilling out at last. Yes, I loved you. I loved you when I shouldn't have. When it was impossible. When it was poison. I loved you, and it destroyed me. Are you happy now? Is this what you wanted to hear? The room collapsed into chaos. The MC shouted for order. Security rushed forward. Fans screamed so loudly it rattled the cameras. The producers shouted in the control room, demanding cuts, demanding silence. But the feed went on. And in the center of it all stood Jimin and Jungkook, broken, burning, exposed before the world. The war was no longer about family secrets. It was about them. And nothing would ever be the same. The studio never recovered from the moment Jimin's confession erupted into the air. The sound of his words still echoed through the rafters, bouncing off every wall, searing themselves into the memory of every person watching live. Yes, I loved you. The audience had screamed, cried, collapsed into hysteria, and the producers had lost all control. But the cameras stayed on. The feed did not cut. The nation did not blink, and neither did Jungkook. He stood there, staring at Jimin as if the entire world around them had vanished. The fans, the MC, the crew, all ghosts. His voice, when it came, was soft, but it carried like thunder. You finally said it. Jimin's chest heaved, his face burned with fury and shame and pain all twisted together. Don't twist this. Don't you dare use this against me like another weapon. I'm not twisting anything, Jungkook said, stepping closer, his voice trembling with something the audience couldn't name. You kept it locked away like it was a crime. You buried it so deep you nearly buried yourself with it. And now it's out, and you hate me for it. I don't hate you because it's out. Jimin shot back, his voice cracking with emotion. I hate you because you forced it out in the cruelest way possible. You didn't expose me to set me free. You did it to destroy me. The audience was in chaos, but silence fell inside the storm of their words. Every syllable was a knife, every reply a wound. You think love was ever freedom for us? Jungkook's words cut deep, his tone shifting between rage and despair. No, it was chains. Chains you wrapped around yourself. Chains you wrapped around me, and I hated you for it. Jimin flinched, the words slicing through him, but he stood his ground. Then why didn't you walk away? Why didn't you cut the chains if you hated them so much? Because, Jungkook roared, his voice shaking, part of me wanted them. Part of me wanted to be trapped by you, and that's what I could never forgive myself for. The screams from the audience rose again, the sound deafening. Some fans wailing, others chanting, others simply stunned into silence. The MC tried desperately to speak over the noise, but his voice was swallowed whole. The camera zoomed in mercilessly, framing every wound like it was art. Jimin's voice trembled with raw pain. You could never forgive yourself? And what about me, Jungkook? Do you know what it's like to love someone who refuses to acknowledge it? To love someone who weaponizes your silence, who turns your devotion into shame. You think I didn't know? Jungkook's words cracked. You think I didn't feel it every time you stood beside me? Every time you burned with something you wouldn't say? Do you think I was blind? Then why? Jimin's voice shattered. Why did you make me carry it alone? Why did you let me drown in it while you pretended it didn't exist? Because I was afraid, Jungkook screamed, the confession ripped from him like flesh torn from bone. Afraid of the world, afraid of myself, afraid of what it would mean if I admitted I felt it too. The studio collapsed into chaos again. Fans cried out, some collapsing into seats, others clutching each other, the sound like a tidal wave swallowing the walls. Jimin stacked. Jungkook's eyes burned, his voice trembling but unrelenting. Yes, I loved you too, Jimin. But I loved you like a curse. I loved you like a fire that would burn everything we built to the ground. And I couldn't let it happen. The words hung in the air like ash after an explosion. The audience screamed, some in horror, others in ecstasy, their voices colliding in madness. Social media outside the studio exploded into an inferno, clips of the exchange spreading faster than the producers could even react. Jimin's voice broke into a whisper. All these years, all this time, and you let me think. I was alone. Jungkook stepped closer, his voice heavy with guilt and fury. Because I thought it was better that way. Better for you to hate me than for the world to hate us both. Jimin's tears threatened, but his rage kept him upright. You don't get to decide what was better for me. You don't get to rewrite my life because you were afraid of your own truth. The MC finally rose, screaming into his microphone, his voice breaking. Stop! Please, stop this! This isn't just scandal anymore. This is devastation. You're tearing everything apart. But they didn't stop, because there was no stopping what had already begun. Do you even hear yourself, Jungkook? Jimin's voice cracked like thunder across the studio floor, his words carrying over the still roaring chaos of the audience. You stand there admitting you felt it too. But you made me live like I was insane, like I was the only one drowning. Jungkook's reply was a razor-edged whisper, sharp enough that even the MC froze in mid-breath. You think you're the only one who drowned. I drowned every single day, Jimin. I drowned while pretending to breathe. You think I wanted to bury myself alive in silence? You think I didn't want to grab your hand and say, yes, I feel it too. But I was terrified. Terrified of what it would do to us. Terrified of what it would do to me. Terrified of love? Jimin spat back, his chest heaving with rage. No, you were terrified of me. Terrified that if you admitted the truth, you'd lose control. And God forbid Jungkook ever lose control. The fans screamed again. Some shouted Jungkook's name like a battle cry. Others shouted Jimin's in desperate defense. The studio floor was trembling with the divide, with the split that had carved itself right through the fandom's heart. The MC raised his voice, his desperation bordering on hysteria. Please, both of you, stop this before it goes any further. Further? Jimin cut him off with venom. There is no further. We're already past the point of no return. He admitted it. He admitted he loved me. He admitted he lied. What else is there left to destroy? Jungkook's laugh was raw, broken, jagged. Everything, Jimin. Don't underestimate how much more there is to burn. Jimin stared at him, eyes wide with disbelief. What do you mean by that? The silence between them was suffocating. Then Jungkook dropped the words like a grenade. You think the secret ends with us? You think our families aren't already buried in this mess? You think my father didn't know? You think he didn't pay people to make sure our little secret never saw the light of day? The audience gasped in unison, a sharp sound like the air itself had been stabbed. The MC's microphone clattered to the ground as he froze in horror. Jimin's lips parted, his voice trembling. Your father knew? Yes, Jungkook hissed, each syllable carrying venom. And he made sure I would never forget what it would cost me if I gave in. He told me again and again that my life wasn't mine to live, that my love wasn't mine to give, that if I chose you, I would lose everything. Not just my career, Jimin, everything. The words sent a shockwave through the room. Fans screamed. some crying so loudly they could be heard even over the microphones. Hashtags were already exploding across the internet. Jimin and Jungkook, the secret love, the father's threat. Jimin's voice broke. And you obeyed him. You let him dictate your life. You let him dictate mine. You think it was that simple? Jungkook's voice cracked, the weight of his confession dragging every word down like stone. You think I didn't want to tell him to go to hell? You think I didn't dream of telling the whole world, consequences be damned? But I was young. I was weak. And I was afraid of losing everything I thought I needed. So I let him win. Jimin stepped forward, his fury boiling. No. You let him win because you wanted to. Because it was easier to betray me than to fight for me. The MC was begging now, his voice ragged. Please, this is not safe. You need to stop before someone... No, Jimin shouted, his voice raw with heartbreak. No one is stopping this. Not now. Not when the truth is finally bleeding out. He turned back to Jungkook, eyes ablaze. You betrayed me, Jungkook. Not once, not twice, but every single day you chose silence over me. And you? Jungkook shot back. You think you're innocent? You think you didn't betray me every time you pretended we were nothing? You think you didn't stab me with your silence just as deeply as I stabbed you with mine? We destroyed each other, Jimin. Don't you dare act like you're the only victim here. The words hit like artillery fire. The audience was sobbing, screaming, tearing themselves apart. Some shouted for truth. Others shouted for lies. The MC had lost all control. And in the chaos, a producer's voice broke through the earpiece of every crew member, a frantic scream. Do not cut the feed. Ratings are astronomical. Keep it rolling no matter what. Neither Jimin nor Jungkook heard. They were too far gone. Locked in a battle that had been years in the making. Jimin's voice was low now, dangerously calm. If your father controlled you, if he blackmailed you with your own life, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you let me stand beside you instead of shutting me out? Because I couldn't bear to see you crushed, Jungkook admitted, his voice breaking. Because I thought if I kept it all inside, at least one of us would survive it. At least one of us would stay clean. Clean? Jimin roared, his voice echoing. You think I wanted to be clean? I wanted to be with you. I didn't care about clean. I didn't care about survival. I cared about you, damn it! Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper, trembling. And I cared about you too much to drag you into hell with me. The silence that followed was devastating. The audience stilled, the chaos frozen by the gravity of the words. And then Jimin whispered, trembling with fury and despair. You dragged me into hell anyway, Jungkook. The difference is, you left me there alone. The crowd erupted again, their cries shaking the air. Jungkook stood frozen, gutted, as Jimin's words cut deeper than any knife could. The MC buried his face in his hands, whispering, God help us all. But there was no help coming. Not tonight, because tonight, the truth had only just begun to unravel. Stop pretending you're protecting me, Jungkook. Jimin's voice tore across the silence like glass shattering on marble. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself. You were protecting the version of you that still wanted to be your father's obedient son. Jungkook's hands trembled at his sides, though his tone stayed low, tight, dangerous. You think you understand what he's capable of? You think you understand what it means to live under his shadow? He didn't just threaten me, Jimin. He threatened everyone around me. My mother, my brother. And if he knew about you back then, he would have destroyed you too. Destroyed me? Jimin spat the words with venom. Do you even hear yourself? I was already destroyed the moment you let me believe I was nothing to you. I was destroyed the moment you abandoned me to carry that pain alone. You didn't save me. Jungkook, you killed me slowly, every single day. The studio was a battlefield of sound, screams, sobs, furious chants. But the two of them were locked in their own war, deaf to everything but the words they hurled like weapons. Do you want me to say it outright, Jimin? Jungkook's voice cracked, raw with the fury that came from years of suffocating silence. Fine. Yes, I loved you. Yes, I still love you. And yes, I betrayed you. Every day I kept quiet. Every time I looked away. Every moment I let you think you were the only one bleeding, it was betrayal. And I will regret it until the day I die. The words struck Jimin like lightning. His voice trembled, half fury, half heartbreak. Then why? Why didn't you choose me? Why didn't you fight for us? Don't you dare tell me it was fear. Fear is not an excuse for the kind of cruelty you showed me. You think it was just fear? Jungkook roared back. It was chains. It was prison. My father had eyes everywhere, Jimin. Every phone call, every move I made, every person I spoke to, he knew. He reminded me every day that I wasn't free. Do you have any idea what that does to someone? To live like you're owned? To live like you don't even belong to yourself? Jimin's voice was cold, sharp enough to pierce bone. Then maybe you were never mine to begin with. Maybe you always belonged to him. The audience screamed as if struck. The words hung in the air, poisonous, undeniable. Jungkook's silence afterward was heavier than any denial could have been. The MC stumbled forward, his voice desperate. This is spiraling beyond control. For your own safety, both of you. Safety? Jimin snapped, spinning toward him. Do you think safety matters anymore? Do you think there's any safety left when the truth is already out here for millions to see? He turned back to Jungkook, eyes blazing. You say you loved me, Jungkook. But what kind of love hides in shadows? What kind of love chooses silence over truth? That's not love. That's coward. And what kind of love leaves me in pieces every time I see you looking at someone else, Jimin? What kind of love survives when the person you gave your heart to starts believing someone else can give them what you couldn't? Don't act like you never betrayed me, too. Jimin froze, the accusation slicing deeper than he expected. His lips parted, words faltering.
You don't get to twist this back on me. Don't you dare.
Oh, I dare, Jungkook hissed, the venom spilling now. You think I didn't see the way you let Taehyung console you? You think I didn't hear the rumors? That maybe you weren't just leaning on him as a friend? That maybe you were trying to erase me by finding someone else to fill the space I left? Don't you dare stand there and act like your hands are clean? The audience erupted into chaos. The name Taehyung spread through the crowd like wildfire, hashtags forming in real time as fans screamed with betrayal, shock, and confusion. Jimin's rage detonated. How dare you drag him into this? You want to accuse me of betrayal when you were the one who shattered us? You don't get to rewrite history just because you're drowning in guilt. History? Jungkook's näred. History isn't clean, Jimin. It's blood and scars and lies we told ourselves to survive. And don't stand there pretending you didn't try to survive me by letting someone else catch you when I dropped you. You don't know what I went through, Jimin shouted, his voice cracking into raw anguish. You don't know how many nights I screamed your name into the dark and got nothing back. You don't know what it feels like to be abandoned by the one person you would have burned the world for. If Taehyung held me up when I was breaking, that's on you, Jungkook, because you weren't there. The crowd gasped, the split between fans growing wider, more violent. Some screamed Jungkook's name in defense. Others cried out for Jimin, demanding justice. Security guards hovered at the edges, bracing for riots. Jungkook's chest heaved with fury. So it's true then. You did let him in. You let him touch what was supposed to be mine. Mine? Jimin's voice thundered like a storm. I was never yours to possess, Jungkook. I was yours to love. And you failed. The silence that followed was deafening. Then the studio lights flickered, a surge of chaos rippling as though the very building couldn't hold the weight of their words. Jungkook's voice came again, quieter now, almost broken. And yet, even after everything, even knowing what you just admitted, I would still choose you. I would still burn for you, Jimin. Because no matter how much I hate you, no matter how much you hate me, I don't know how to stop loving you. The confession cracked through Jimin like an earthquake, shaking foundations he thought were long destroyed. But he masked the fracture with fury, his voice steady even as his chest caved in. Then that's your curse, Jungkook. Because I don't know if I can love a man who let his fear destroy me. The crowd howled with heartbreak, with rage, with desperation. The MC collapsed into his chair, muttering to himself that careers were ending, lives were unraveling, and nothing would ever be the same. And as cameras continued rolling, the world outside began to riot with hashtags, conspiracy threads, fan wars, and the terrifying knowledge that this wasn't just a fight, it was the implosion of everything they had built, live on national television. And somewhere in the shadows of the control room, a figure whispered into a phone. It's happening. The truth is finally tearing them apart. Make sure the press gets every second of it. The lights in the studio still burned hot against their skin, but the silence that followed their last exchange was suffocating. Jimin stood rigid, chest heaving, eyes glistening with fury that refused to fall as tears. Jungkook, across from him, looked like he had been hollowed out by his own words, the veins in his neck straining as though the confession he had made had taken every ounce of his strength. The audience was caught in a suspended state, breathless, waiting, terrified of what might be said next. But it wasn't either of them who broke the silence. It was a voice from the shadows near the side of the stage, a voice that dripped with venom and familiarity. Do you see now? Jungkook's head snapped around so fast, it was as if the sound had struck him physically. His eyes widened, pupils narrowing when he saw the tall, cold figure emerging from the shadows, flanked by men in suits. His father. The room erupted in gasps, the audience shouting in disbelief, the MC nearly choking on his own breath. "Chairman Jeon?" the host whispered, horrified. But no one was listening. All eyes were on the man who stepped forward with the presence of a king entering a throne room. Jungkook's voice broke into a roar, sharp with panic. "What the hell are you doing here?" His father's lips curled in a cruel smile. "Cleaning up the mess you've made, son." His eyes cut sharply to Jimin, and perhaps finally erasing the stain that has been rotting this family for years. Jimin's fists clenched at his sides, his entire body trembling with rage. "Say that again," he hissed. "Say that to my face." "Oh, I'll say it as many times as it takes," Chairman Jeon's voice thundered, sending shockwaves through the audience. "You are nothing. A parasite who latched onto my son and dragged his name, and my family's name, through filth. Did you think you could keep him? Did you think he would ever be allowed to choose you?" The words were knives, each one sharper than the last. But Jimin didn't flinch. He stepped forward, his voice shaking with fire. "And yet, despite everything you tried, despite the chains you wrapped around him, despite the years you poisoned him with your control, he still loves me. Doesn't that eat you alive?" The crowd roared at the audacity, half in awe, half in fear. For a split second, Jungkook's father's eyes darkened, the mask of power cracking into something primal, something ugly. But he covered it with a sneer. "Love?" He spat the word like it was poison. "Love is weakness. Love is why he will never be the man he was destined to be. I raised him to be a king, and you," he jabbed a finger at Jimin, trembling with fury, "turned him into a whimpering boy. Stop it." Jungkook's voice thundered across the stage, his fist slamming against the table so hard the microphone screeched. His body shook as he stared at his father, a war raging at his eyes. "You don't get to talk to him like that. Not anymore, not ever again." The audience screamed, the air electric with the moment. Chairman Jeon tilted his head, smirking. "So you finally found your voice. And what will you do with it, Jungkook? Disown me? Expose me? Stand there on national television and declare war on the man who made you?" Jungkook's chest heaved as his lips parted, words trembling but sharp. "You didn't make me. You caged me. You broke me. You tried to turn me into your reflection, but all you ever did was make me hate the face in the mirror. I'm done." Gasps tore through the crowd. The chairman's expression twisted into something feral, his control slipping for the first time. Jimin's eyes widened. He knew what this meant. He knew what kind of war was about to erupt. "You ungrateful bastard!" Chairman Jeon snarled. "Everything you have, your voice, your fame, your power, exists because of me. And now you throw it away for this mistake?" He turned his glare back on Jimin, his face contorting with disgust. "You ruined him." "No." Jimin's voice cut through like a blade, steady, strong, unbreakable. "I saved him. And the fact that he's standing here, saying these words proves it. You didn't make him, Chairman Jeon. You tried to destroy him. And me? I gave him something you'll never understand. Something you'll never be capable of. I gave him love." The audience screamed as though the words had ignited fireworks inside the room. Camera zoomed in, capturing every flicker of rage across the chairman's face. Jungkook's eyes were wet, fury and pain colliding into something unstoppable. He moved closer to Jimin, standing shoulder to shoulder with him, their bodies trembling but united. "You want to erase him?" Jungkook spat at his father. "Then you'll have to erase me too. Because I'm done living under your shadow." The eruption of cheers and cries from the audience was deafening. Some shouted warnings, others encouragement, the live stream comments exploding into a frenzy across the globe. But the chairman's smile returned, cold and calculating. He raised a hand, and the suited men behind him stepped forward, their presence dark and threatening. "You think this is over, son? This is only the beginning. You've just declared war, and wars have casualties." Jimin's heart stopped in his chest, but he didn't let fear show. He grabbed Jungkook's hand and squeezed it hard enough to leave bruises, his voice breaking with both fire and desperation. "Then let them come. I'm not running anymore." Jungkook squeezed back, his jaw tight, his eyes locked on his father with a defiance that had been buried for years. "Neither am I." The audience screamed, the world shook, and the cameras caught every second of the most dangerous declaration of their lives. "Get them off the stage, now!" The chairman's voice split the air like thunder, sharp and merciless, as his men advanced. The audience erupted into chaos, some screaming in fear, others shouting for the cameras not to cut, their voices desperate to capture every second of what was unfolding before them. But the cameras stayed locked in, their lenses hungry for the scandal that had detonated into the living rooms of millions of viewers around the world. Jimin refused to move. His hand clamped tightly around Jungkook's, his knuckles